How can we stop the killing of pilot whales in the Faroe Islands? I want to know. I can't handle this anymore. I'll tell you on this episode.
We get some rum and beer, expensive port in a reindeer, so you know we're gonna party till tomorrow.
Welcome back, Marine Conservation Happy Hour crew. This is Dr. Scarlet Smash. I was incredibly sad and depressed. Couldn't even speak. I was trying really hard not to cry. I don't know how our guest, Rob Reed, does this. I'm so shocked, but I thank Dr. Kraken for being here and Rob for staying here, because you can't leave us without giving something good to say, because I'm heartbroken. It's a hard episode for anyone to listen to if they didn't hear last week's episode. But it's really important information, understanding that there is this brutality almost for fun. That's almost what it sounds like, honestly. And my whole thought in all of this is, if they're barely eating the food and they can't really because of the toxins, and they're throwing things out just to get more whale meat or dolphin meat, and it's for fun, it's for play. And if that's the case, do we need to mentally look and check these individuals? Because it sounds like they're like those serial killers that I watch on documentaries where they like to kill animals for fun. What the heck? This sounds really psychotic to me.
In the UK, there's things like fox hunting, but that's been banned in most places. And it's not like thousands and thousands and thousands
and it's
of
totally
foxes.
different. This is, I mean, it's different. You know, like a lot of hunters, deer hunters around here eat the meat. They also don't take 1,000 in their house. You know what I mean? They just do it once during a season. They bring home one, right? One big one for their whole family or something like that. This is just insanity to me. And seriously, what is this? Did we just ship a bunch of people in history over to the Faroe Islands that were actually convicted felons, or people that did not have their mental health checked? I mean, what is going on here?
Well, I think that's a good point. One thing I say to my crew on Operation Bloody Fjords, which is just entering its 10th year here, is that they shouldn't be surprised that 16-year-old Faroese young men, because that's how old you have to be, will sign up immediately to do their 45-minute PowerPoint presentation on how to kill a 5-ton pilot whale or a dolphin, because they've been looking forward to doing that all their lives. You know, as babies and young children, they're taken by their parents to go watch these hunts happen. When we've been filming these hunts, and we've filmed and documented 77 of these hunts over the last 9 years, we have even seen teachers taking the school kids out of the school to watch a hunt take place.
Yeah, this is something.
So it's not even sort of a parental decision here to take your own children to go watch dolphins being brutally killed by hand by people in a bay. You know, it is a big community issue. And while they're quite happy to take primary school aged children out to watch dolphins being massacred, it also turns out that they teach almost nothing to do with marine conservation in the schools. So there you have a problem right away. And it's no surprise that you get lots of pictures on the internet of 16, 17, 18-year-old Faroese men absolutely covered in blood with a knife in each hand, posing because they'd just taken part in their first dolphin hunt. Because that's what they are. They're dolphin hunts. Pilot whales are dolphins, and the Faroe Islanders kill, on average, over 1,100 dolphins a year. It's a brutal massacre.
God, it's very, very alarming. I don't know, there's not really any sort of comparison I can think of. Maybe, you know, people watch hangings for entertainment back in the day.
But Donald Trump seems very cuddly to me right now. I mean, I'm not joking. A 16-year-old, a 16-year-old in an entire culture that is excited to watch brutality like that and slaughter. I mean, and almost build a culture around rage and killing. That is real sadistic. Like something is not right.
And because the Faroese use the excuse of cultural heritage, although there's nothing cultural or traditional about these hunts anymore, you know, they're done by jet skis and sports fishing boats, and it's done for sport. The meat's contaminated. They're not even eating 2/3 of it. You know, there's no justification for that. I mean, the hunts make no sense at all. And education is one thing in the Faroese community. But when you have a culture where the small handful of people on the Faroe Islands, actual Faroe Islanders themselves, who dare speak out against the hunts, are basically persecuted themselves or victimized for having
Wow.
spoken out because they're so defensive over it. There's nothing unique about the Grindadrap, the dolphin hunts of the Faroe Islands. You know, these types of hunts happens even in Shetland and the Orkney Islands and across northern Europe into Scandinavia. These are historical type of hunting that was, you know, it's not unique to the Faroe Islanders. Faroe Islanders can't claim it as their unique part of cultural heritage. The only reason why they're doing that is because the last other place that gave up these style of hunts was Shetland. And 1920, I think it was the last pilot whale hunt. And the pilot whales just lay on the beach and rotted away. And that was the last hunt. So the Faroe Islands are more than 100 years behind the last other place to have given up this style of hunting. And they're just dug in and very, very defensive. And so we need other tactics to try and bring an end to these hunts.
So it's almost tribal and part of their identity. So you're probably not going to convince them with facts because you'd be attacking their whole identity, I suppose. So how do you
Yeah,
change it?
possibly, but it's a part of their identity which they need to give up. You know,
Yeah.
just because you've been killing dolphins for hundreds of years, there's no reason to continue doing it. Otherwise, we have all kinds of traditions here in the UK that people would be objecting to. You know, and the Faroese, you know, have a great music culture as well. They have traditional regattas, which definitely is part of their cultural heritage. You know, those kind of things they can latch onto and have, you know, protected cultural heritage status, you know, applied to them legitimately. There's no reason for this modern version of a traditional dolphin hunt, which is so indiscriminate and unnecessary and so cruel.
So do they have much in terms of tourism? Because I know that with
Mm.
Iceland, the tourism industry has suffered because of the whaling there. Post Game of Thrones and these various movies they had, a lot of people refused to go to Iceland because they were still whaling. So is there any tourism, or is it just not? It
Well,
doesn't occur.
the Faroe Islands put a lot of money into promoting the Faroe Islands as these unspoilt, remote, you know, islands full of wildlife. You know, well, the wildlife they haven't shot or
Mm.
brutally killed on a beach at least. And you know, in recent years, there's been some films that have used Faroe Islands, particularly a James Bond film,
James Bond
and the
movie, yeah.
latest version of Peter Pan as well.
Ah.
And they make the most of this as promoting the Faroe Islands as this sort of very beautiful sort of destination for tourists.
But eco-tourists aren't going to go somewhere where they're massacring dolphins.
No, and of course they're not going to tell the tourists in advance that they might stumble across one of these hunts, which is exactly what happens. Because apart from meeting tourists, you know, whilst documenting these hunts, our crew meeting people from all over the world. We've had tourists who have unfortunately watched one of these hunts, so they've seen lots and lots of cars and lots of people rushing towards a bay, thinking, "Oh, I wonder what's going on." So they go as well, and next thing you know, them and quite possibly their children or whoever they got with them are now witnessing pilot whales and dolphins being stabbed to death on a beach and being traumatized. And a couple of years ago, a cruise ship was sailing into Tórshavn, the capital, just as a hunt was taking place right in Sandgerði base, just south of the capital, and the cruise ship witnessed that. And we've spoken to people on that cruise ship who said that passengers were going back to their cabins and shutting themselves in. Some passengers were being physically sick on the deck of the cruise ship. Apparently, the captain gave a very, very long talk to the passengers, apologizing for what they had witnessed. And, you know, this is one of the things. If tourists want to go to these islands, they ought to be warned because people can be traumatized by witnessing this. And they ought to be able to be given the choice to make an informed decision about whether they want to go to these islands, because this is not a hunt that is being done by a small number of, let's call them professionals, if you like, career whalers or dolphin hunters. So it's not like whaling in Iceland or whaling in Norway or even taiji dolphin hunts in Japan. This is a widespread community activity with 26 designated killing bays across the islands. And there's a fairly good chance that as a tourist, you're going to stumble across one of these hunts or see pilot whale and dolphin for sale. Or even if you're not aware of the issues, actually buy it yourself in a store or a supermarket or eat it in a restaurant with no health warnings whatsoever about the heavy metals and PCBs that are contaminating that meat that is so well known and documented in the Faroe Islands.
So, what is the Paul Watson Foundation and Neptune's Pirates doing to try and bring about the end of it? You said you've got an awareness campaign.
We've documented so many hunts, using crew who have been actually in the water, surrounded by the blood and the killing. 77 hunts we've documented and almost 6,000 animals. So we have all the footage and all the photos, all the video that the world would ever need of these hunts. We now need to absolutely shut them down. And so we're working with Higginson Strategy and other groups here in the UK to hit the Faroe Islanders where it basically is going to hurt them, because the Faroe Islanders that we have spoken to and asked, who are anti-grins but afraid to speak out in their local community, when they've managed to get us to one side and have a proper chat with us, say that the only way you're going to stop this is by impacting the pocket, the finances of the Faroe Islanders. And the number one industry is the fishing industry.
Fishing industry.
So more than 90% of the total income of the Faroe Islands. So we need to stop eating fish that is caught or fish from aquaculture, from fish farms in the Faroe Islands. We need to stop eating all of that and buying that. Second largest industry is tourism, which includes not only people flying out or sailing to the Faroe Islands on one of the ferries, but also the cruise ship industry as well.
I was just thinking, because in the US, there is legislation along the lines of if you are doing fisheries which have got unsustainable levels of bycatch, then the US can put in sanctions to not get any fisheries products.
Yeah, and indeed the US also put restrictions on Scottish fish farms as well. So if they shot seals, then US would not buy their fish. So how about we all stop buying fish caught in the Faroe Islands or by Faroese registered vessels, and we put in pressure on their number one industry and also escalate that to impacting their tourism industry.
Now, I assume that there's a lot of Faroese fish going to the UK.
We're one of their biggest customers because we're, of course, so close. We're only 230 miles away from mainland Britain.
So what about the supermarkets? Because I know a bunch of them have got sustainability policies and so forth and won't take fruit from this place and the other. And, is there a kind of like a dolphin safe label, or can you get Tesco's and Waitrose and all that to say, we're not taking any Faroese fish?
Well, I mean, first thing to point out is that this isn't just a boycott against the pilot whale and dolphin hunts of the Faroe Islands. There's a tangible link between the fishing industry and this, because under the Grins law in the Faroe Islands, Faroe Islanders are obliged by law, if they spot a pod of pilot whales or dolphins, to report them so that then a hunt can be called and then driven ashore. And one of the biggest culprits of reporting the pods of pilot whales and dolphins who actually participate in the initial stages of these hunts are Faroese fishing vessels, because they're out around the coastline. So they report the pod, they stay with the pod until other faster vessels can come out and start the drive in. So they are complicit in these hunts, both by choice and by Faroese legislation. And we also have a growing industry coming about in the Faroe Islanders, so more coastal fish like sole and plaice. They're going for MSC certification at the moment in the Faroe Islands. And the smaller boats that catch those species actually participate right to the killing stages of the Grindadrap hunts. So it's not just that we're ejecting Faroese fish because the Faroese also kill dolphins. Many of the Faroese fishing vessels are actual participants in these hunts. So we have a very good justification for actually saying no to Faroese fish. And that is hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds worth of sales to the UK every single year under the current UK trade agreement with the Faroe Islands, which, by the way, can be suspended by the UK government at any time and renegotiated if they really had the willpower to do so.
Well, it sounds like there's multiple areas of pressure that can be brought to bear against the UK government and against supermarkets and so forth to try and introduce this boycott.
Well, supermarkets always claim to be able to trace, from the fish from the net to the shelf, to the freezer. They always make these claims. But what we've noticed over 10 years of this campaign is that in some stores in the UK, where we used to see packets of frozen fish saying sourced in the Faroe Islands or caught in the Faroe Islands, they're now generically saying North Atlantic or something of the similar to sort of hide the fact that maybe it's Faroese fish, and people can't make an informed decision quite as easily these days. So we need the supermarkets to look at their supply chain, actually look at which vessels are actually catching those fish, and accurately label the fish in their stores and the packets of frozen fish in their freezers, so that UK consumers can say no to Faroese fish. If enough people do that, then, the Faroe Islands government has got a good reason to go to their people and say, look, we're losing money. It's hurting our economy. It's time to bring about the end of these hunts because we don't need them. You don't need the dolphin meat to survive. If you're actually being poisoned by it, these hunts shouldn't even happen in the first place. Give up these hunts and, hey, we're deeply unliked in the Faroe Islands because we keep going back year on year to film these hunts. But we'd be the first to promote tourism to the Faroe Islands if they just stopped this.
Stopped it, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, well, it seems to be a generically good thing to be able to tell where your fish comes from. So you don't get aquaculture that's produced by using horrible chemicals and so forth, or shrimp that are coming from Thailand where they've destroyed the coastal environment by making shrimp ponds. So it just seems to be...
Well, the whole issue around all those things is getting more and more clouded because the Scottish government in particular are very keen to build and promote Scottish fish farms and Scottish salmon from these fish farms. But the reality is that they're not Scottish even owned companies. They're primarily Norwegian. 1/3 of the Scottish fish farm industry is now Faroese owned.
Oh, really?
By the company Bakkafrost, the largest company and most powerful company in the Faroe Islands. And, we should be making an informed choice about where our fish comes from in the UK. From my perspective, I prefer that no fish is eaten. But hey, I know that this is a real world and people do eat fish, but they should be able to make a choice to not eat fish from a nation which actively kills dolphins. The same dolphins and pilot whales that swim past our shores, they're not local to the Faroe Islands, these pods. These are the North Atlantic pods that swim past our shores that we enjoy seeing from our beaches, but are wiped out in their hundreds and thousands on the Faroe Islands.
Yeah, definitely. Some of the Scottish animals there are easily swimming over to the Faroe Islands, orcas and white-sided dolphins and bottlenose dolphins for sure. So Marine Conservation Happy Hour crew, start your letter writing campaigns, and next time you're in the supermarket, ask everyone, does that come from the Faroe Islands? And explain to them why you're not having Faroese fish.
Also watch out for UK restaurants because some, really well-known restaurants, and we suspect Michelin-starred restaurants as well, are sourcing from the Faroe Islands, and they shouldn't. They could make a very easy decision to not do that as well. But certainly people should be writing to their MP saying, look, first issue here, we want accurate labeling on all our products. People can also write to their supermarkets and request exactly the same. We want to make an informed choice against buying fish from the Faroe Islands because of this reason, because of these dolphin hunts. So we want, if the fish is from the Faroe Islands, we need to see that on the packaging. And speak to our MPs and get them to put pressure on renegotiate the terms of the trade agreements between the UK and the Faroe Islands, and actually get a clause put in there that while dolphins are still being killed, over 1,100 a year are killed in the Faroe Islands. If that is still happening, then we won't buy your fish. It's quite that simple. And watch how fast the Faroese government will suddenly end these hunts.
Do it, Labour Party. Do the good thing. So at least we have something positive that people can do.
And don't go on holiday to the Faroe Islands.
And to find out more, where can we find you, Rob? Where can we find Neptune's Pirates and the Paul Watson Foundation?
Yes, you can look us up on neptunespirates.uk on the web, but we're on Facebook and Instagram, paused X, Twitter for obvious current ongoing reasons. But find us on Facebook and Instagram and our website, neptunespirates.uk, and you can read a little bit more about the campaign. And there's a pledge that we've started as well. So it's the Faroes Free Pledge. And that's both for individuals and businesses to sign, saying, we will not deal with or put money into the Faroese economy whilst these dolphin hunts are continuing. And we want as many people to spread that message, which is all under the hashtag Faroes Free, and sign that pledge on our website. And then we can actually show the Faroe Islanders, not only because there's been many, many petitions in the past where people are objecting to the hunt. We want to show the Faroe Islands that they'll be losing business not only now, but in the future if they continue these hunts. And that's the point of this pledge. It should be a very easy pledge for everyone to sign, every kind of business from every level. No business with the Faroe Islands until these dolphin hunts stop.
So something very positive that people can do to hopefully get this horrible practice ended.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Rob. We could be chatting forever.
You could absolutely.
Thank you very much for joining us, Smash, even though I can see you're very frustrated and you just want to...
I am.
And thank you very much, Marine Conservation Happy Hour crew, for tuning in.
Hey, Marine Conservation Happy Hour crew. Don't forget to hit subscribe and follow us for future episodes. And also, refer us. We'd love it. We would also like to hear from you, so please contact us on social media, or you can email us about a topic that you're interested in hearing about. If you're interested in sponsoring this podcast, or you would like us to come visit your science facility and do a live episode, email us at info@absolutelysmashingllc.com. This podcast was edited and produced by Absolutely Smashing. The music is produced by Jolly Shore Leave. Thank you again for listening, and we couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much for being part of the Marine Conservation Happy Hour crew.